Land Darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy. This time I'm reviewing The Flatshare by Beth. This is a British contemporary chick lit novel. It's adult romance. It is a dual perspective story focusing on Tiffy and Leon as they go from strangers who are sharing a flat and a bed, although not at the same time. So it's kind of a timeshare thing as well as a flat share. But they get to know each other through their possessions and their habits and what they leave around the house, including notes that they end up leaving for each other. And then they slowly become friends and then eventually fall in love. It is a romance, not too spoilery. This one does have trigger warnings for it, though. There is emotional abuse, gaslighting, and stalking. There is also a secondary character who is in prison. So if any of those things are a little too touchy for you or you need a heads up before going into that, there's your warning. So this is a slow burn, friends to lovers kind of story. We start off with Tiffy and Leon. Leon finds himself in a position where he needs more money. He's trying to pay a lawyer because his brother Richie is in jail and they're trying to set up his appeal, so he needs to pay all these court costs. So he really just needs more money. So he devises this plan to share his apartment and his bed with somebody else. He isn't there very often. He's really only there 9 to 5 during the week because he's a night nurse and he works these long hours. So he's never in the apartment, so he might as well just share it with somebody else. So he leaves this ad, and Tiffy sees the ad. She is trying to leave her ex-boyfriend. He's, wants to move back into the house with his new girlfriend. Tiffy needs out, so she sees this ad, and she doesn't have much money or much time, so she decides to take him up for it. She does try to find another place on her own first. It's London. Everything's expensive, and what is cheap for a reason and not in a good condition. So even though this sounds weird, especially the sharing a bed part, and a lot of her friends are questioning this, like all of her friends are questioning this, Tiffy knows that this is like her only shot to get away from her ex-boyfriend Justin, and she takes it. Leon's girlfriend Kay is also not entirely convinced about this, and so Kay starts setting down some ground rules. Look, you guys are going to live together, you're going to share this space, but you're not going to meet. And so Tiffy has to do all of her communications and the setting up of this through Kay. They set on very strict times that they're allowed to be in the apartment. The apartment is Tiffy's from, I think 6 to 8 a.m. or something, and then from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. it's Leon's, and Leon's spending the weekends with his girlfriend. So very strict times that they're never supposed to meet. But of course you start to get to know somebody if you're sharing a space with them. You get to know their scents, their smells, what they're eating based on what food is in the fridge, the dishes they haven't washed, or the possessions that Tiffy's bringing in. She has a very quirky personality. She's got a lava lamp and this beanbag chair and these very flamboyant clothing. And she has so much more clothing than Leon was anticipating. He set off okay, here's half the closet, here's half the dresser, but Tiffy's got so much stuff that it's just overflowing from all of that. And he can't help but look at all her dresses that are bright colors with crazy patterns. Or notice the fact that she's a book editor and she does all these DIY books, so he's starting to flip through her work and the stuff she's bringing home. She just left it on the coffee table by the couch. Why wouldn't you look at this book written by a bricklayer who's doing a DIY book? So he gets to know Tiffy through that. And they start communicating through notes, leaving post-its about, hey, could you take the trash out? What day is trash day? The dishwasher, it's clean or dirty. Here are some leftovers. Do you want to eat some of this? And they fall into a habit where they start making extra food and leaving it for the other person, and just sending notes to each other. Tiffy has this very expressive way of just talking and talking and talking, and she doesn't just explain what food she's leaving, but why she's leaving it. And so Leon gets to know her that way. He starts feeling more trusting, and even though he's an introvert, they're communicating through notes, so he's a little more adventurous in notes as well, and they slowly get to know each other and become friends, even though they've never met. The book is also told from both of their perspectives, so we do get to know Tiffy, we get to know her life. We also get to know Leon's life. He's very introverted, he's quiet, but he also notices everything around him, And the few people he does let in, he forms very strong friendships with. So we get to see his relationship with his brother Richie, who's in jail, and the struggle that both of them are going through with this. But we also get to see some of his patients, which I loved. There's this girl, Holly, who's like 10 or so, and is going through chemo, or some kind of cancer treatment, and how she just like latches onto him, and like she's so perceptive as to what Leon is going through, and like knows how to push him to get him to just like start telling her more of the stories. And of course, she immediately starts shipping Tiffy and Leon when she hears about the roommate and their communications. So she is adorable. And then we also have Mr. Pryor, who is this old man. He's a World War II vet. And his story, he loves knitting and coming up with crazy things. But he also has this one lost love that he always wishes that he had like acted on. But it was another guy that he was serving with, and that was totally frowned upon during World War II. And so he longs to like see him again. And so we actually have this subplot where Leon goes about trying to find this Johnny White, this guy that he knew during World War II. And he comes up with like 8 possible matches and goes and visits each of them to see if he can figure out which one is the right Johnny White and reintroduce him to Mr. Pryor so they can see each other one last time. And it's so sweet. And also really funny to see all these different guys who served in World War II, but like have vastly different characteristics despite the fact that they have the same name. And in Tiffy's life, she's got the ex-boyfriend Justin, who was just emotionally abusive to her. He's also not leaving her alone and starts engaging in some very stalkerish behaviors. It's a very creepy situation. It turns dark. And the more distance Tiffy has from their relationship, the more time she spends in counseling, the more she starts to see how exactly abusive he was. Because he seemed kind of perfect at the time. He always gave her attention, would say the right thing at the right time. But then the more she analyzes it and thinks about it, he was telling her that she was remembering things incorrectly, when really he was just lying. He's making her do things that she doesn't really want to, making her think that she owes him stuff. And so she's got a lot of emotional baggage to sort through with this past relationship, and the fact that the guy also won't leave her alone. So that's kind of a rough part of Tiffy's life. So Tiffy also has her friends, luckily, that are incredibly supportive and trying to help her. They want to protect her too, so they aren't sure if they can trust Leon. They think it's creepy, but the longer she spends time with him, the more she tells them about him, the more she finds out about him, she's like relaying it on, and they start to like also trust him. And it's so much fun to watch her try to explain what she knows about Leon. So her 2 closest friends are Mo and Gertie, that she's known since college, and they're roommates together in like this small flat that doesn't have room for her. So like they're always hanging out together. Gertie's a lawyer. It's strange that she's more of a jump to conclusions type of person, but she kind of is. She's so fiercely protective of Tiffy that she just wants to jump into action and wants to do something, whereas Mo also wants to protect her, but he has a different approach to it. It's hard to explain these two and their characteristics. But they are the sounding board for Tiffy as she tries to sort through what she feels about Leon and the situation and what she feels about Justin. There's also Rachel, who is her friend from work and who Tiffy routinely overshares with all the time. She tells her like every little detail. Rachel also has this kind of flamboyant personality. They don't quite have the same fashion sense, but like they both have the same kind of outlook on life, which I loved. They're also work buddies, so like they will sneak off and just have like gossip sessions. So like we're having a meeting, but like they're just in there like just talking and stuff. Like not necessarily about the books that they're supposed to be editing, which was just fun. And then we have Katherine, who is this main book account that Tiffy really needs to handhold her way through. Tiffy does crocheting and knitting as her books, and it just starts to take off in popularity. And so she's having to talk Katherine through like social media and how do we do this when like a younger crowd is interested. It's not just a bunch of retirees knitting and crocheting and like trying to expand her fan base so she can sell more books. And Katherine's also kind of pushy, so she like enlists Tiffy to be her model. Like they'll go do demonstrations and talk about the book, and like Katherine will use her as a model and like, this is the scarf I made, this is the vest I've made. and making Tiffy go through these things that like she normally would not wear this kind of clothes, but she has to do it because it's work. So Katherine was also like a fun character. Basically, this book was filled with a lot of really fun characters. There's also the whole plot around Leon and Tiffy getting to know each other and their two lives starting to collide. The first time they meet is absolutely hysterical, but I don't want to spoil it. But they do meet. Don't worry, that happens, and it is just so worth waiting for. So this was a fun romance. It was a great kind of light read, but also had more serious subject matter, dealing with life and death, dealing with sickness, dealing with prison, dealing with like emotional abuse, and really having to stand up for yourself. And I love getting to see these two characters and getting to see them get to know each other and get to know themselves better too, as they're both in relationships at the beginning that weren't great for them, and having to find a relationship that might actually, work and function and be perfect for each other. On the whole, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if this is a book I'm gonna reread. Like, I definitely want to read anything else that Beth O'Leary would write in the future. This is her debut novel, by the way. But I'm not sure that's one that I need to own, that I need to like go back and reread either, because like now I've discovered these characters. I don't know, maybe a few years from now. Anyway, let me know if you have read this. If there are any other chick lit adult contemporary romances that you think I might enjoy, let me know in the comments below. I'll link to reviews of other romances that I've read and enjoyed. Yeah. So, peace out. I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye.